Good morning, boys and girls. Thanks for joining with me today as we share a Bible story together. This morning our story is taken from Luke's Gospel, chapter 15, and it's really based on the whole chapter, which starts out with Jesus hearing again how some of the religious leaders of his day, some of the people who lived life what they thought was perfectly and looked down their noses, they judged all sorts of other people, how they criticized Jesus for caring about and loving those that they felt didn't deserve to be loved, didn't deserve to be cared for, and didn't certainly deserve to be forgiven. So Jesus tells this story. It's called the parable of the prodigal son. And here it says prodigal, but it shows a father and two sons, because all three are actually kind of like prodigals. The word prodigal means lavish, and wasteful in the lavishness. The father was considered to be wasteful in his lavish love that he showered upon his son. And the sons were wasteful as they wasted, literally wasted, and got angry about all sorts of stuff. So in this story, a father has two sons, an older son and a younger son. And the younger son is not happy, and he says to his father, "Dad, I wish you were dead so that I could have my share of the inheritance, that I would have what's coming to me, so I want it now, please." I'm not even sure that he said please, I doubt it. And so the father gave him his share of the family inheritance. And the younger son took his money and he ran. He went off to a far different place, a distant country, and he wasted all of this money that he got from his family. Wasted it all. And then he found himself starving. And so he hired himself out to work for a pig farmer, taking care of the man's pigs, something that he was not at all supposed to be doing. And he hungered so much that he wanted to eat what the pigs were eating. Can you imagine eating some of that slop that pigs eat? I don't know if you've ever seen pigs being fed and how they eat. Oh my goodness. But he finally came to his senses, this younger son. And he thought, back home, my dad has hired men who work for him. They have a roof over their heads. They have food in their bellies. They have enough water to drink. They're not starving in the least bit. So maybe I'll go home, get out of this mess, and I'll apologize to my dad. And I'll say, I'm not worthy of being your son anymore. Please just let me live as a servant in your household now. And so he started for home. The father, can you imagine what the father had been feeling now? His son gone, not knowing anything about him, what had happened to him, how he was doing, if he'd ever see him again. The father must have been keeping an eye out every day, and he sees his younger son coming from a distance. He sees them, and those days they wore robes, the men. And he hiked up his robe around his knees, up above his knees, and he ran, something that men back then, 2,000 years ago, in Jesus' day, they were not supposed to do that. They were not supposed to run. And they were certainly not supposed to run to welcome such a bad son. But he ran out to greet his son. And before his son could even finish what he'd practiced, what his speech was, to be able to work as his servant in his father's household, the father embraced him and hugged him and welcomed him. And then he had a party at home to welcome his son back home. I wonder if you, when you're a little bit older, I wonder, maybe even now, it doesn't matter how old we are, we all do things wrong. I wonder, does mom or dad forgive you easily and welcome you with a big hug and say, "I love you"? Or do they cross their arms and they make you serve them for a month for what bad thing you did? And what if when later you run away from home you leave home at 20 and you never want anything to do with your family again? Do you think mom or dad would ever welcome you back? I don't know. I had an older sister. Karen was her name. And she did that when she turned 18. She said to my parents, basically, "I wish you were dead," by saying, "I'm leaving. I can't stand you guys." And she went. And she did whatever she wanted. She took her stuff with her and she left home, and we didn't know how she was and where she was and what was going on in her life. And then when she came back a few years later, I was floored at mother and father did. They actually welcomed her. They actually hugged my eldest sister and welcomed her home. And she actually became the closest one to my mother over the years. Incredible. That's an image and a model of what God's love for us is like. No matter what, God always welcomes us. So when we do something wrong, we should never be afraid to go back to God and say, look, I'm sorry. And God already forgives us and always loves us, no matter what. Think about that for this week. Thank you so much for being with me today. The Lord's peace be with you.